These are the whispers carried from the forgotten corners of the earth, tales that twist the mind and chill the soul. Now, let us begin. In an average neighborhood on the east side of Connecticut, a town called Mystic to be precise, known for decades as a coastal village with maritime charm. Sean, a salesman turned pastor, was in the process of finishing building a new church, which he named Charles III, Mystic St. Baptist. A new addition to the community, the church was set to open in 2 weeks once complete. Pastor Sean built this church from the ground up with his own money. He is a man of many talents, but over the last 5 years has become intimately acquainted with the ways of the Lord. He has undergone a transformational shift, leading a new life of purpose, taking his gains from a lucrative sales career and purchasing land on which previously stood another church. A heritage church born in this very same community. Built in the late 1800s, founded by Edgar Leon, a devout man who had once led the congregation on this same land. Edgar was a man loved by the community who had radical but inspiring views, believing that humans could always be optimized, that the religious texts talk of higher powers that grant gifts and provide insight into the future. To this day, the exact religion that Edgar referred to was still unclear, but he had manuscripts and books that dated back hundreds of years. These texts were only to be read and interpreted by himself and no one else. They were stored in a rusted steel chest with deep scratches and markings that looked like someone or something had made several attempts at prying it open. The townspeople of Mystic had always spoken of Edgar Leon with a mix of reverence and unease. His sermons, while magnetic, often carried undertones that seemed too visionary, too otherworldly for the era in which he preached. He spoke of transformation not only in spirit, but in body, hinting at the malleability of flesh and soul under divine influence. Though few understood him, they followed, for Edgar's presence was undeniable, and his charisma unmatched. His aura was felt throughout this small coastal area, and he became a renowned but oftentimes feared figure within the community. When the old church, weather-beaten and crumbling, was sold to Sean, many locals murmured that something sacred and dangerous had been disturbed. Pastor Sean, however, dismissed such whispers as small-town superstition. With his wealth and determination, he tore down the remnants of Edgar's sanctuary, laying the foundation for his own vision of faith. To Sean, this was a resurrection, a gift to Mystic's people. To something or someone else, it was desecration. When visiting the site for the last time before construction began, a large dog or even wolf was seen wandering in the nearby forest surrounding the old church every night, almost as if it were keeping guard or an eye on things maybe. This wolf was said to have a golden twinkle in its eyes. When breaking ground among the rubble, Sean found a locked chest. Curiosity won over reverence, and he forced it open with a crowbar he kept in the back of his trunk. Inside, he found ancient manuscripts, which were suspected to be the famed manuscripts of Edgar Leon. These were aged texts in Latin, Aramaic, and other dialects Sean couldn't really identify. Their margins were filled with symbols and sketches, bodies shifting into beasts, faces splitting into two, wings sprouting from shoulders, scales for skin and teeth protruding from seemingly normal human faces. He quickly closed the chest with its books within, feeling very unsettled. He had it removed from the construction site immediately. But by nightfall, the chest had returned, placed neatly at the altar of the unfinished church. Sean convinced himself it was a prank, construction workers perhaps, or mischievous youths. Yet when he tried to burn the manuscripts, the flames extinguished themselves as if the books had a life of their own. The air grew heavy, the faint scent of seawater and decay lingering as though the very walls rejected his act. That night, Sean dreamed of a tall, stern man with eyes that shimmered like molten gold, whispering in a tongue older than scripture. He awoke, wondering who was that. A week before the grand opening, the church bells rang at midnight, though no one had yet wired them. Startled awake, Sean rushed to the sanctuary. The pews seemed to be filled with shadowy figures, their outlines blurred as if shifting between shapes. At the pulpit stood the same tall, stern man with golden eyes and an animalistic sneer. It was Edgar Leon himself, or something wearing his likeness, his jaw elongated and contracted like a wolf as he spoke words that made Sean's ears ring. "Pastor," the figure hissed, "you build upon sacred ground, but you strip it of its soul. You call it rebirth, but I call it theft." Sean fell to his knees, trembling, unsure if he was awake or dreaming. Edgar's form rippled, at once man, then beast, then a dark, cloaked figure. The beings in the pews turned their heads in unison, their eyes glowing like lanterns in the dark, that same molten gold. "You destroyed my church," Edgar continued. "Now I will make yours a hollowed tomb." And he faded away into the dark corner near the altar. From that night forward, Sean's once promising church became a place of dread. The stained glass shifted colors when no light touched it. Parishioners claimed they saw their own reflections moving independently in the windows. A local carpenter quit after swearing the crucifix he installed turned its head to follow him. Sean tried to reassure his workers, but even he was plagued by visions. When he prayed, the Bible before him bled ink, spelling words he did not understand. Each morning he awoke with scratches across his chest, the skin welted in symbols that matched those from Edgar's manuscripts. Word spread in Mystic that the new church was cursed. Some believed it was divine punishment. Others whispered that Edgar Leon had never truly died, that he had found a way to live on, shifting between forms, tethered to the land and the faith he once led. On the eve of the church's opening, Sean locked himself inside the sanctuary. He brought no Bible, no cross, only a determination to face whatever plagued him. As the clock struck midnight, the candles lit themselves, and Edgar appeared once more. "You were a salesman before you were a pastor," Edgar said, his voice reverberating from every corner. "You sold lies then, and now you sell faith. But faith is not yours to build or break." Sean mustered courage. "This is God's house now, not yours." Edgar's body convulsed, shifting grotesquely, skin rippling, bones cracking, his form bending into something neither man nor beast. As he screamed, "Then let it be God who saves you." The ground trembled, pews splintered, and the great cross fell from the ceiling, narrowly missing Sean. He cried out, clutching the manuscripts he had once rejected. The words within them burned into his mind, symbols searing behind his eyes. Sean realized with horror that Edgar had not merely been a preacher, but a vessel of something ancient, something that thrived in both faith and flesh. By dawn, the townsfolk found the church silent. Sean was gone. The doors hung open, and the sanctuary was filled with the smell of salt and rot. On the pulpit, the manuscripts rested, their pages open to a single phrase scrawled in blood. "He is not gone. He has only changed into something greater. The church never opened. Locals avoided it, claiming the bells rang at night though no one touched them. Travelers swore they saw a man with molten golden eyes watching from the windows, his form shifting between faces they could not recall. Sometimes they looked like Edgar or some sort of snarling beast, other times like Sean the salesman. Some said Pastor Sean had become the church's new keeper, bound to the same curse as Edgar Leon, his body now a vessel of change. And so the land remained, a place where faith and horror intertwined, where a heritage of strange power lingered on the east side of Connecticut in the once charming town of Mystic.